Welcome back, everyone, to a new episode of the Sean Trey Show. Here today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a topic that is really interesting to me. It's something that popped up the other day while I was driving home, and have to segue into what this is all about. But I was driving home, and there was this motorcycle that pulled up next to me, and I tend to get a tad bit aggressive at times when I drive. And it's kind of a learned reactionary behavior because where I live right now in Saigon, Vietnam, the traffic can be a tad bit aggressive. And you kind of learn to react to that. So this motorcycle pulls up really quick next to me, and the guy looks up really quickly. And I was just like, I'm driving my daughter and I'm just about ready to react. And I'm like, what's happening right now? Is everything okay? This is really stressing me out. And I look over at the guy and he looks at me and he's like, hello, good morning. And like perfect English. And it was like, suddenly it clicked to me. This guy just drove as fast as he could through traffic to catch up with me in that moment because he saw someone that he wanted to practice his English with. And kind of the defensiveness that I had, the aggressiveness in that moment just drifted away. And he smiled and I smiled back. And he said, have a nice day. Navigating one of the most terrifying roundabouts in the city. There's vehicles everywhere. And pulled on through the traffic, got onto the road that I was trying to get to, and reevaluated myself in that moment. And my daughter looked up at me and she's like, Daddy, did you know him? And I said, no, he's just a really nice man. And we have these opportunities that come up to us, these positive moments that if we can embrace them, be kind of aware of them, we can have these positive experiences more often. But we get pessimistic, all of us. We drift towards pessimism. And, the question is, well, why? Well, because there's a lot of things that happen in our lives that kind of pull us down these paths that aren't always the most positive. When I was in high school, everyone got voted something: the most likely to succeed, the best at business. And I had this one, I got voted the friendliest. And I was like, hated that for years after high school, that like I wasn't most likely to succeed, most intelligent. I was voted friendliest. Ticked me off, And I kind of pulled back for a while. I became less friendly. And I started realizing that, you know what? That wasn't who I was. And you have to find that optimism, find that kindness, find that goodness inside of ourselves and re-own it. Today's topic, I want to say, is unlocking the power of optimism, embracing life's positive surprises. I caught myself because when that guy pulled up next to me, I immediately assumed that something bad was happening. I immediately assumed that there was a problem, and I went into my fight or flight. I was about ready to jump off my motorcycle and start throwing fists. And that wasn't the correct response. That was not what was supposed to happen at that moment. That was not the right reaction because that's not what that guy was coming with. He was coming with an extreme amount of positivity just to say hi. And he didn't want anything but except for a hello back. And it was a shift and a realignment in my own mind that needed to happen. Now, why do people become pessimistic? Let's look at this. One of the first things that often happens is people will have past negative experiences. Now, maybe sometime in their past, something happened to them that caused them to kind of abandon their idea of the world as a good place. And these are real events. These are real traumas that these people have. And they can be very formidable. And they can really negatively affect someone in a way that person is not going to have a happy, positive outlook on life. Maybe it is disappointment, failure, or trauma. And this person develops a negative outlook on life. And maybe they believe that things will not work out well for them. And this is one very common way that people can kind of start shifting towards pessimism. Another thing that is extremely common is learned helplessness. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, people can oftentimes drift into pessimism if they feel like they have no control over their life. And this is a real challenge. If you feel like anything that you do doesn't make an effect on your life, at some point in time, it's going to be really hard to keep going, to keep trying. If you think that every single time you try to do something good, it has no positive results, why would you keep going down that path? Why would you keep putting energy into something that gives you no return? I make these videos. I put up my videos, and hopefully they get views. Hopefully I start growing something. But if I put up a video and then after I post the video, I got 0 views each time, it would make it a little bit hard for me to keep making them, because I wouldn't think anything I did had any effect on my life. And I might abandon that path. And again, that is what learned helplessness is. Um, a sense of helplessness can lead to a belief that nothing will change, nothing that you do matters. And that can drive people down this pessimistic path. Another thing that can cause people to drift into pessimism is biased thinking. And what does that mean? Well, sometimes we can start focusing on the negative instead of the positive in our lives. And this is neurologically linked. There's a great book called, but the longer title is The Practical Neuroscience of Buddhism. And it's by these two neuroscientists that studied mindfulness meditation and how it works. But one of the early chapters talks about the brain. Maybe it's called the Buddha's brain. And it looks at how our brains are hardwired to avoid the negative, even more so than we seek out the positive. Because in the ancient times, you needed to avoid lions, and our ancestors needed to avoid the T-Rexes and other things that would eat them. And so we have this biased thinking that often arises in our life, and where we tend to focus on negative events and ignore the positive ones. We can see this sometimes in our relationships, sometimes in our careers, that people around us will tend to focus on the negative, and we might start feeling that we're not going to accomplish anything, or we're doing things wrong all the time. Now, again, this can be a challenge because that pessimism can gain a foothold and start to rise and start to become just everywhere in our lives. I found this the other day, that I tended to talk more about things that I thought was going wrong, or I would lament on the problems in the world or problems that were around us. And my wife called me on it. V said, "Sean, you really are being negative lately. Maybe you need to start looking at how things are going right." And that was a good wake up call for me, because we all can drift down paths that might not be where we want to be. And for me, I didn't want to be the negative person. I want to have an outlook on life that is positive, that maybe things can go well. Maybe this video is the one that takes off. Maybe it's the one that, even if it doesn't take off, it helps people. Maybe there's someone who writes back to me and says, "What you wrote today was something that I needed. What you said today was something that affected me." And that is more important than anything else. That ability to impact people's lives is where I'm headed, is what I'm trying to do. Now, why is optimism even important? Well, number one, it increases motivation. Now, if you feel more optimistic about your life, about your goals, it gives you this little charge. It makes you feel like you can accomplish something, and it makes you feel like you can have success. Eric Barker, in his book, Barking Up the Wrong Tree, talks about this. How to be more lucky? Well, they did a study about it, and they showed that people that were thought they were lucky actually tried more. It was optimism. It was the belief that things were going to go right, and they put more motivation into it. They got more motivation, and they were more likely to put the effort in needed to succeed, to get over some type of hurdle. It's a mental thing. It's an optimistic thing. It's a belief thing that you can accomplish things. Another way that you could see this or think about this is that with that optimism, you think you can actually pull something off, and it gives you more motivation to keep trying. Like, let's imagine uh, that you want to have a new workout goal. I'm going to work out 6 days a week. You were never able to pull that off before, but you're like, I think I can accomplish this now. So you set out to try it. And when you believe in yourself, you give yourself more motivation to keep working at it. So maybe you start showing up at the gym. That in and of itself is going to help you on your path towards accomplishing your goals. That's a starting point. Another reason to be optimistic. Now, optimism also helps you increase resilience. Now, when you're button up against a challenge or an obstacle, if you feel like and believe that you can overcome it, that's going to help you kind of get through this stuff. People with an optimistic mindset are more going to be able to cope with those challenges that come their way, because they're not going to be drifting into this belief that this is going to defeat them, that this thing is going to crush them, that this is going to be the wave that is the end of them. Maybe they think, you know what? This is not fun, but this is something that I can weather, just like every other storm that I've weathered, just like every other challenge that I've ever had. This isn't a minor setback. And if I stick with it, I'll be able to get to the other side of it. Now, this is increased resilience, and resilience is an important thing to have in our lives because it makes our lives very much easier. And optimism is key to that. Another reason that optimism is important is optimism can lead to greater happiness and improved relationships. If we are optimistic, we're going to be more fun to be around. We're going to be more fun to kind of hang out with. And that doesn't mean that you don't see the negative. Doesn't mean that you turn a blind eye to bad things that are happening in the world. But it means that you have an essential, and it means that you have an innate belief that things can be better and that you can be part of that solution, that you can be part of that change that the world needs. By being more optimistic, you can start focusing on the good in your life and start being more, and start cultivating that belief that the world is a good place and that you can be part of this beautiful place. And that in and of itself is going to make you more happy. If you think that you have a purpose, that you have meaning, then you're going to have more joy. And if you don't have that joy, you're at least going to try to seek it out. So how can we make our lives better? How can we be more optimistic? That is an important question to ask. Number one, focus on the positive. Now, there might be things that are going wrong in your life. There might be some challenges. But if you can instead focus on the positive and seek out the good in each situation, it's going to make it easier to focus on more positive things. And you're going to start thinking that maybe, just maybe, things can start going right in your life. Another thing that's really important with this is practicing positive self-talk. We can tend to drift into that negative self-talk. You got to turn that off, or at least kind of try to push it back a little bit and focus on the positive. Now, looking for the silver lining in any type of challenging situation is what this is all about. Even if you're falling down, you can look for some of the positives that might have come from that. Maybe you fall down and you see a beautiful flower on the ground. Maybe you fall down and you find $100 bill. There might be things that you missed if you didn't have that negative experience. And this can help you finding ways to appreciate the small joys in your life. For me, I had a career setback a couple years ago that was challenging for me, but that allowed me more time to spend with my daughter. And then in that time, I developed this bond with her that's really awesome and something that is one of the most important things in my life. And it is a fundamental part of my new business in which I'm creating content, educational content for kids with my family. And if I hadn't have had that setback, I wouldn't have had this positive shift. You got to focus on the positive because there's always good things happening. There are always good things happening, even in the most challenging situations. Now, reframe negative thoughts. We all have those negative thoughts that come into our mind. But one of the most important things is to challenge them. Can you challenge the negative thoughts and really push back against them? I'm never going to work. This is never going to work out. I'll never be successful. I'm not beautiful. I'm not handsome. I'm too this. I'm too that. Challenge those thoughts. Shut them out. Find a way to really stop them. Some people, that might be mantras, positive mantras. Following, if they think I'm not smart enough, I'm not good with money, having an internal mantra that you repeat in your head: I am good with money. I believe in myself. And really pushing those thoughts is really important. But another thing that's really important is to ask yourself, to ask yourself the question, is this thought even true? If it's not, then challenge it. Push back with thoughts that are true, that are what is your actual life experience, what is your actual current position. Another thing that you think, or ask the question, what's another way that I could think about this situation? Maybe you are not happy with the way your body looks. For me, I'd like to gain some weight, but I also know that I have some challenges with my diet. I have some food allergies. I have some food intolerances. Well, maybe I can seek out ways to get help with those, finding an expert who can give me direction about how to deal with that situation. Instead of focusing on the negative self talk, focus instead on solutions. Focus instead on things that can actually help. It takes being willing to be a little bit more optimistic about your current situation. Now, how else can we move forward with finding positivity? Well, surround yourself with positivity. Surround yourself with the good in life. One of the most simple ways that you can do that is to seek out positive people and experiences. Surround yourself with people that are positive. If you have people that are around you that are always focusing on the negative, that are always trying to bring you down, it is going to make you negative as well. It's going to make you into someone that you might not want to be around. So focus on being around people that you would want to be around. Focus on being around positive people that are really fun to be around. And one of the things that you're going to notice is that you're probably going to start matching them. Another thing that you can do is to engage in activities that bring you joy and fulfillment. Focus on what makes you feel good. Focus on the things that make you feel happy. If you're a person who likes art, go out and take an art class. If you like baking, go and find a good baking class or a community of people that you enjoy being around. For me, I love movies. So I enjoy talking to fellow filmmakers. I enjoy going out and watching movies with my friends. These are things that I enjoy. Find that for you and go into it. And this next one is really important. Make a conscious choice to limit exposure to negative news and media. There is always something bad happening in the world. And I'm not saying to be the ostrich that buries its head in the sand, but I am saying that you do not need to follow that 24 hours a day. If you want to check in once a day, go for it. If you want to check in every couple days, let that be your thing. But to consume this negativity constantly is going to give you this negative outlook on life. Right now, around the world, there is conflict. Right now, around the world, there is uncertainty. But I can't help the situation by focusing on that. I can help the situation by doing this, trying to empower people to be more positive and to look at ways they can make changes in their life. This has meaning. This is powerful. This is what I have to focus on. And the last thing you should do is to create a more optimistic mindset and improve your overall well being. Think about this. How can you make your life better? This is about empowerment. This is about the change that you want to make. And this is about believing that you can make that change. So, whatever is going on in your life, wherever you're at right now, stop, slow down, and tell yourself that things are going to be okay. And have the perspective that you have the power to change your life, because you really do. Hope you guys have a beautiful day, and I'll see you next time.